Hey, what's up, my ninjas? So today we're going to be creating a logo. You should have already seen it on screen. We're going to make that from scratch. I've been getting a lot of questions recently about 3D intro creation and logo creation alike, so I figured, hey, why not make a video addressing both these topics at once, as they work hand in hand. So this is going to be part 1 out of a 4-part series of tutorials. In this one, we're just going to be going over the actual creation of a logo itself. So we're going to want to hit create new. Wait for that to load up. It might take a little bit. Sorry, my computer's not the greatest. But that is proof you don't need an amazing machine to do this. You can just hop on a laptop, use Illustrator, and it'll work just fine. Okay, so we're going to do 500 by 500 pixels. Usually most websites are 250 by 250, 500 by 500, depending on which one for profile pictures, so this size works out pretty well for that. I don't want a chaotic, disorganized mess on my computer, so I'm going to go ahead and name this logo tutorial just for the sake of the video. I'm going to hit create. So we want to go ahead and drag our logo design in. I've already drawn something out prior to this. The download link will be in the description if you want to follow along using the same logo, so that we can kind of try to get the concepts down firsthand. Or if you have something drawn up, just follow along as best you can using your design and applying the concepts of teaching in this video to yours. So we're going to hit file and place. My logo's here under my 4th hard drive. Double click that. In your instance, it should be in your download folder if you downloaded it. And okay. Hold Shift, Alt, and drag outward. Normally it'd be way bigger. You have to drag it down. For some reason, this entered in smaller than it should have been. But either way, the concept's still the same. You just kind of want to drag it till it fits. In order to zoom in and zoom out easily, just hold Alt, then use your scroll wheel. Now, I want to go back to just looking and zoned in at my artboard. I'm going to hit Control 0. That achieves that pretty easily. Make a new layer. Double click on the name, layer 2, and we're going to name that logo. We're going to double click on layer 1, name that logo drawing. And then away from the text, double click that same layer. We're going to hit template. It'll dim the images by 50%. And it will also lock the layer so we can't move it around anymore. It doesn't need to be. Go ahead and click on your logo layer. I'm going to use a fill of none, which you can find up here, and a black stroke with 1 point. I'm going to go ahead and use your rectangle tool, which is right here, and just create this straight edge. I'm going to want to drag this out just a tad on both sides. I could also just hold Alt, and it does both at the same time. Go ahead and click and hold on this. You'll be able to grab the ellipse tool. Go from the... grab my selection tool, deselect that, then grab my ellipse tool. Go to the center of this, make sure you line it up and have your spark guides on so you can see where it intersects. Hold Shift and Alt and drag this outward. Now if we hit V, it'll go back to the selection tool, so I can easily just hit Shift, move this up a couple times. If I let go of Shift, I can use my arrow keys by themselves rather than holding Shift, and just move it around as need be. In this case, it needs to be a little bit smaller than it is. So Shift and Alt again. And there we go. That should be fine. Now, you want to click on your circle. Control C, Control F. What that does is it copies and then pastes it in the front, so it's in front of all the other shapes we have. That way you don't have to worry about holding Alt, dragging all the way out here, and then you gotta line it back up. We're gonna want to go up to here, drag it inward until it looks good. I'd say about there is fine. That's pretty decent thickness. Now, grab another ellipse tool, hold Shift Alt, and drag outward, and it creates a perfect circle, like we've been doing all along. And just move it into place. I think right about there should be fine. Hold Alt. Make it a little bit bigger. And it's not quite lined up. So I'm gonna go on to View, turn off my Snap to Pixel, just turn off any of your snaps. Make sure your smart guides are still on though. There we go, now it's lined up. So I can zoom out, use my selection tool by hitting V. I'm already on it, but you may not be. All depends on what stage you're at. Select all of them, and grab your shape builder tool. You can click on it, it's right here, below your eraser tool and above the gradient tool. Or hit Shift M, because shortcut keys are great and you should take advantage of them. It's a little too thin, so what we're gonna go ahead and do is move this outward and then up using the arrow keys. Let me zoom back in and make sure it's lined up properly. It's not quite. And there we go. Lined up properly. Select everything. Shift M to go to your shape builder. And click and drag. And now we have this shape here built. Hold Alt and it actually removes pieces. So we don't need any of this. This is just part of the gridding process. Okay, so from here, click on this, your little icon that you've made already, hit Shift X, and that's going to swap the stroke over to a fill. So now your whole path is filled. Grab your rectangle tool, go from the center, drag outward. It looks a little weird, I know, but just follow along. Shift M, hold Alt, and just drag that away. Now we right click on this, transform, reflect, preview, and we're gonna hit copy. Now click and drag and hold Shift at the same time until it's intersecting. Select everything, use your shape builder and make it a whole piece. Now if we click this piece right here, it toggles the visibility of the layer. Like if you've ever used GIMP or Photoshop, it usually has this eyeball icon. Where it's a template layer, it looks a little bit different, but it's the same concept. Just click it. There we go. Now we got our logo. Okay, now I'm gonna want to center that. And then make it a little bit bigger. Now, so a way we can check whether this logo is decently made or not. Right click on it, transform, hit reflect, and click preview. Flip it horizontally. It still looks good. It's a decent made logo. You can change the angle of this and it will let you preview how it would look. It looks pretty similar. Regardless, it's a very simple logo. Just hit cancel and it brings you out of it. So if you just wanted to make a logo, this is the digital process. You're done. Ta-da, you've made a logo. Give yourself a little pat on the back. Ta-da, you're good. We're gonna go ahead and save. And just save it as, in my case, logo tutorial. In your case, whatever you want to name it. Hit save. I'm gonna hit replace. It's gonna pop up with a dialog box. Or it should. Yep, there we go. Hit OK. And then after this, because the next part of the tutorial is going to be making this 3D in Cinema 4D, we're going to want to actually go up and hit Save As well, just to get this step out of the way. So I'm going to name it Logo Tutorial Paths. Hit Save. It's important to name it something different, I would just add paths to the end because that's essentially what it is. You're just taking the path, bringing it into Cinema 4D and extruding it. But we'll go over that in the next one. For right now, come up here to where it says the Illustrator CC, hit Illustrator 8, and hit OK. It'll pop up with this little dialog box saying you're saving an older format, it may convert all type to point type, and blah 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 blah. Basically, it's just saying, are you sure you want to save this in an older file type? In this case, yes we do, because it's the only thing that will work with Cinema 4D. Hit OK. Alright, and that's that. I would have to say a few noteworthy comments before we finish though. Always start with a sketch. Let your creative mind wander while drawing. You can't force creativity in logo design. It's just not possible. You'll drive yourself mad. Trust me, I've spent 11 years trying to master logo design. The biggest obstacle for me was thinking that I would just start in Illustrator and create something cool. While the thought sounds good on paper, and it certainly is possible to create a logo through that process, and it teaches you a lot about the program you're using, it's harder to be creative if you can't get all the bad ideas out of your brain and on paper and out of your system first. So, how do we know if a logo design is even good to begin with? You may be asking yourself after hearing that. So, is your design simple? If it is, cool. If not, simplify that stuff. Come on now. Does the design serve a purpose? Yes or no? If it does, cool. If not, chalk it up as practice. And just learn from it. Try to make sure every logo you make has some sort of purpose. Even if you're doing it for practice, even if you're trying to build your portfolio, make sure there's some sort of reason why it's being made. Explain that. Finally, are you communicating a message visually through the logo? Yes or no? If you are, and you can explain properly what message that is, and the logo itself conveys it just by looking at it, you've achieved that. If not, well, go back to the drawing board. You can make 170 fucking artboards on here and make different variations of the logo. It's not difficult, and I actually might put a tutorial out about how to do it in the future. That being said though, that's it for part 1. Part 2 will begin the 3D modeling process and the Lightroom setup for creating your very first 3D intro using the logo we just made. The process can also be used to create a 3D logo PNG. If any of you gamers from back in 2012, 2013 years remember Call of Duty 3D logo avies, and yeah. If you want to see how those are made, it's very simple. It can be done in Photoshop, and I can put out a tutorial on that as well after this 4-part series is done. Also, any questions, feedback, comments, just leave them down below. I'll take a look at them, and we'll try to address some solutions to questions you have. Thanks for your time, guys. Remember, stay creative.